Guy walks up to a rabbi. Sounds like a joke. Actually, it's not. You ever wondered where this comes from, the golden rule? If I could get, can I get one more slide? So there was a guy named Rabbi Hillel in the 1st century BCE, and right through around Jesus' time. He had a school, the Hillel School, and you can see this stone carving. A guy actually walks up to Rabbi Hillel and says, "Rabbi, can you teach me everything I need to know about Torah?" And he said, "Yes, I can." He said, "But there's one catch. I want you to teach me everything that I need to know about Torah while I stand on one foot." They loved playing little games like that, word games and riddles. And so here's the Rabbi Hillel teaching this young student everything that he needs to know about Torah. And it comes down to this. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That which is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. That is the whole Torah. The rest is merely commentary, or the rest is just an explanation of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Jesus expands on that just a little bit and says, love God as well. This is why following Jesus, if it's easy, we're probably not doing it right. There's 613 laws in Torah. I would find it so much easier. In fact, I tell my wife in the morning, if you have things that you want me to do, I wish you would just make me a list. Because I can tick off all the things that I've done, and at the end of the day, I can say I was a good boy. I got everything done. I'd rather you give me a list with 613 things on it that I'm to do and that I'm not to do, rather than to tell me to love some people that really I don't want to love, maybe. Or I find it hard to love. Can I get my next? Seeing this guy's face sometimes makes me go like this, but this is more the way most of us, I think, react. When your enemy is drowning, throw the blankety-blank an anvil. Not love your enemy. I remember when I was a little kid, I think I was probably in 1st grade. And you know when you graduate from softball to baseball, and then do you remember it being a little scary the first time someone threw a ball to you, and instead of catching it like this, you had to go like this with the glove? I don't know why I tell you embarrassing stories about me, but I do. Maybe you've experienced this too. So there was a guy in my 1st grade class named Keister Richardson. Not that I remember that or anything. And we were on the playground at Riverside Presbyterian Day School. And Keister was like the star athlete, the guy that every time we played kickball, he booted the ball over the third baseman's head. And, you know, all the girls thought Keister was so awesome. And Keister started making fun of me because I didn't know how to do a baseball glove like this and catch. And I said, I do too. And he said, okay. And he took a baseball and he threw it to me. And I, of course, went like this. And the ball went square right in my nose. I can still hear it go boop. And it blew up and I fell on the ground and I started crying and I was so angry. And he started laughing and laughing and laughing. He was dancing around and pointing at me, and then other kids were pointing at me. And I just loved him. No, I jumped up in a rage and I went out to the pitcher's mound and I tackled him and we started getting a fight, and the coach came over and split us up. And then the coach got mad at me. Well, Keister kept on making fun of me, and you can imagine my delight when Mrs. Smoke, our first grade teacher, hauled him up in front of the class for making fun of me when I had a bloody nose. She told him he was wrong, and I sat there with my nose dripping. And I remember the wonderful crack of the ruler across the palm of his hands. This is this way to react. And this is the way, if you're like me, this is, what is it called? Schadenfreude. It's not enough to see your enemy fail, but you have, what is it? You have to exalt or delight in it. But Paul tells us in this passage, and Jesus tells us this is wrong. The cycle has to be broken, and someone has to break the cycle along the way. Can I get one more, Kate? Thank you. And I think about this in our world today, and I don't know about in your relationships or as you have grown up. This is the hardest thing. But for evil to be successful, it is not just the bad guys hurting the good guys. For evil to be successful, the good guys have to convince themselves or ourselves that we are somehow justified or responsible for exacting vengeance or striking back. And somewhere along the line, this cycle has to be broken. Can I get one more? This is also one of those passages where if you've been the victim of childhood abuse, victim of abuse in a marriage or something like that, this is not mean that you have to have warm-hearted feelings towards the person that has abused you. Sometimes love can look like, hey, I need to distance myself from this situation and maybe let God handle that person. So it's not a sentimental sort of thing. So I wanted to be sure to say that. As I start to wrap up, can I get one more? How important is this? So Paul in this Romans passage cites Proverbs 25. If you've never spent any time in Proverbs, I would recommend it. It's just such wonderful wisdom sayings. But apparently it's so important for us to show love in the face of violence and to break this cycle of violence, that even if you have to look at it in terms of, okay, I'll show this person love because it keeps burning coals on their head. At least I get the satisfaction of that. And if a person is capable of shame, then yeah, it probably does, but not everyone is. Can I get my last slide? So I was down at Winco in Nampa, on Nampa-Caldwell Boulevard, about 2 months ago. And I'm checking out, and there's a woman, an elderly woman in a wheelchair, and there's a younger woman, I'd say she's probably in her late 30s or something. And the lady in the wheelchair is paying for the woman's groceries as she's bagging them. And I hear them talking, and she's talking to the cashier. The woman bagging the groceries, her husband left her. She has 3 boys. She works the equivalent of 3 jobs. And she can't afford enough food and her rent. And so the lady in the wheelchair, who is on a fixed income from Social Security, is buying her groceries. And I offered to help them out as they were leaving because I just had a couple of items. And I introduced myself as the pastor of this church. And I said, we have the Sunshine covered, and we would be delighted to help you. A lot of the things that you're buying here, we would be happy to give you. And she reacted very negatively. I can't do church anymore. Stay away from me. You're one of those. Let me guess, you're going to make me join your church. Let me guess, I'm going to get phone calls when I don't show up with my boys. Let me guess, we had this conversation. And I said, no. We won't do any of that. You can just come and get food and get the help that you need, if you would like. She knew where our church was. Will we see her? Maybe. I hope so. I hope so. As I was thinking about this sermon and thinking about this church and what I said this morning, driving in here and seeing all of your faces, I had a political figure recently asked to come speak at the church to talk about things going on in the world. And I said, I don't think we need that at Kirkpatrick. I think we already have a pretty solid grounding of who we are. The world, I'm 58, and I know maybe a lot of you might say, oh, this is typical, this happens all the time. To me, it seems like our world is literally becoming undone. We're about to start the cycle again, and at some point, someone, somewhere, has to say, I will not participate anymore. I hope that is the position as we go into a difficult election season, and as our world is increasingly violent, that this church is an island of hope for people like the lady at Winco. That we care for each other, we don't allow division here, and we love whoever walks in that door, no matter who they are. And I'm confident that we are going to do that. Amen. Amen.